Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
United Kingdom court finds former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu and his wife guilty of organ trafficking. Court of Appeal fixes Friday to deliver judgments in appeal by Ademola Adeleke seeking to affirm his election as Osun State Governor. PDP suspends former Ekiti State Governor Ayo Fayose, former Senate President Pius Ayim, and 2 others over anti-party activities. On the foreign scene, 8 new confirmed cases of Marburg disease reported in Equatorial Guinea, bringing the total to 20 so far. Good evening. This is News at 7 on Western Spring Television. My name is Tunde Ido. Former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu has been found guilty of organ trafficking by a United Kingdom court. His wife Beatrice and Obina Obeta, a doctor involved in the case, were also found guilty of the plot. It will be recalled that Ekweremadu and his wife were arrested in June last year in the United Kingdom for allegedly trafficking a 21-year-old man into the country to harvest his kidney. The duo, alongside their daughter Sonia and a medical doctor Obina Obeta, had been standing trial at the Old Bailey, but their daughter was, however, cleared of the charges. Their conviction today was the first verdict of its kind under the Modern Slavery Act. Citing Judge Justice Jeremy Johnson will pass a sentence at a later date. In a reaction, Detective Superintendent of the Metropolitan Police, Andy Foppy, praised the survivors' bravery and urged people to look out for other victims of modern slavery, which he said is all around us.
This is the first conviction of its kind in the UK. We could not have achieved this without the courage of one person, our victim survivor. I want to commend him for his bravery in speaking out. The Metropolitan Police Service is committed to tackling exploitation in all forms. We can only succeed by working with partners in the UK and overseas. I'd like to thank our colleagues in the Crown Prosecution Service, the Human Tissue Authority, and other partners who have worked so hard to help us achieve this conviction today. We do understand the challenges, as no case is the same. Specialist officers from the Met's modern slavery and exploitation teams understand this, and we will ensure victims are signposted, safeguarded with the help of partners. Modern slavery is all around us. We need the public's help in identifying potential victims of trafficking and exploitation, to bring offenders to justice and to protect the vulnerable.
The Court of Appeal in Abuja has fixed Friday to deliver judgment in an appeal by Senator Ademola Adeleke seeking to affirm his election as Osun State Governor. The court had reserved judgment after hearing submissions in the suit on March 13th. In the appeal, Governor Adeleke is the appellant, while Gboyega Oyetola and the All Progressive Congress APC are first and second respondents. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) and the PDP are also joined as the third and fourth respondents in the suit. In a judgment delivered on January 27th, the Osun Governorship Petitions Tribunal sacked Governor Adeleke and affirmed Mr. Oyetola as the duly elected governor of the state. 2 of the 3-member panel held that Mr. Oyetola was able to prove that there was overvoting in some of the polling units. Governor Adeleke had rejected the judgment, describing it as a miscarriage of justice and an unfair interpretation against the will of the majority of voters. In Ondo State, the Election Petition Tribunal today said it had received 9 petitions on the February 25th National Assembly elections in the state. Secretary of the tribunal, Musa Adam, told journalists in Akure that 7 of the petitions were on the House of Representatives election and 2 on the Senate. Mr. Adams said the candidate of New Nigeria People's Party (NNPP) in Ondo North Senatorial District, Olusegun Phillips Alunge, filed a petition challenging the election of Olajide Ikpesigba of the All Progressive Congress (APC). He added that the Labour Party candidate for Ondo Central, Moro Party candidate for Ondo Central, Moronfoluwa Badamosi also filed a petition on the election of Adeniyi Adebomire of the APC. Enugu State Governor-elect Peter Mbah has assured the people that he will run an all-inclusive government devoid of any sectional interest. Mr. Mbah, in his acceptance speech today, said he was in a hurry to develop the state. Amongst other things, the governor-elect said he will make water run in every home within the metropolis within 180 days in office. He vowed to put in his best to ensure that the state achieves greatness in development.
We're in a hurry to unleash the tech talents in our young people and grow and nurture their interest in business and vocations skills. We shall build a school of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, an innovation incubation center, as well as a skill enhancement center in each of the 3 senatorial zones. Ours shall not be an administration by a section of this state, I repeat. We shall run an all-inclusive government designed to provide an inclusive economic development for our dear state. As we bring water to all homes in Enugu metropolis in 180 days of our being sworn in, we shall bring water in the shortest possible time to Nsukka, Oji River, Udi, Ogo, and others too. We shall frontally confront the infrastructural deficit in all parts of the state, and no one will be left behind. Let me at this juncture call on everyone to join me in this task of chiseling a great tomorrow from the rock of a despondent today.
Spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Festus Keyamo, has submitted a petition to the Department of State Services, DSS, over inciting comments by candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, and his running mate, Yusuf Daiti Baba Ahmed. In the petition filed today, Mr. Keyamo, who is the Minister of State, Labour and Employment, said the comments by Mr. Obi and Senator Daiti were capable of disrupting the peace, law and order in the country. He noted that since the edition of the presidential election results, the duo have been hopping from one media house to the other, making incendiary comments and claims about the declaration of the president-elect by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The minister said in a post-election period such as this, there was a need to soothe frayed nerves, lower the temperature, and begin the healing process. In the meantime, protests broke out today in Abuja over the just concluded elections. The protesters, under the aegis of the National Youth League for the Defense of Democracy, kicked against the May 29th inauguration of the president-elect Bola Tinubu and demanded the invocation of an interim national government. They also demanded the immediate sack and arrest of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Mahmood Yakubu, by the State Security Service, SSS. Armed with various placards with different inscriptions, they also asked several foreign embassies in Nigeria to immediately revoke the visas of 15 INEC resident electoral commissioners. A leader of the group, Dr. Moses Paul, was speaking at Unity Fountain, where the protest started, said the interim government is expected to appoint a new INEC chairman and conduct a fresh election that will produce a befitting president for Nigeria. The People's Democratic Party today suspended former Governor of Ekiti State Ayodele Fayose, former President of the Senate Pius Ayim, Professor Dennis Itavoya, and Aslam Aliyu. This was disclosed in a statement signed by the National Publicity Secretary Debo Ologunagba. The suspension was arrived at after an extensive review of the affairs of the party pursuant to the provision of the PDP constitution. The PDP also referred the governor of Benue State, Samuel Ortom, to the National Disciplinary Committee over his reported involvement in anti-party activities. Here in Osun State, in what political commentators have called a total change of guard, the People's Democratic Party PD political grip on the affairs of Osun State. This in the light of the just concluded National and State House of Assembly elections has changed.
Feel that party has for assembly, so to say, and what that means is that discussion is likely to go in one particular direction. So, I mean, that would be unfortunate, but I mean, that's democracy. That's also the beauty of democracy. People have spoken, so they want it, so they will have it.
Mr. Moshood Akande is a member of the All Progressives Congress APC in Osun State. He is the Deputy Majority Leader and he represents Olorunda State constituency in the outgoing 7th Assembly. He says the PDP did not get its overwhelming majority the right way.
It was an election of intimidation, harassment, maiming, and killings. A whole town was sacked. Several residents had to flee into the bush. Just for some people to have their way. It's most unfortunate. And some steps had been taken, and we hope they will hear from us very soon.
The Deputy Majority Leader also says the constitution of the PDP-dominated 8th Assembly does not bode well for the state.
You will notice that the quality of representation that we had in the 7th Assembly was highly commendable. The players, so to speak, lived up to expectations. They were able to represent their constituency in a very diligent and productive manners. I do not see this happening if, in the end, the 8th Assembly, as constituted now, come into being.
Mr. Akande, who is also the Chairman House Committee on Media, is one of the APC lawmakers who lost their re-election bid. He believes his party will rise again.
Traditionally, this part of Nigeria belongs to the progressive camp. And whenever there are misfortunes like this, we always bounce back stronger. I am sure that we're coming back in a big way very, very soon.
Although the dynamics of lawmaking at the National Assembly are different, it appears the PDP now has a stronghold on Osun's political setup. Attention will now be on the 8th Assembly to see how it will check the executive and interrogate its plan for the people. Emmanuel Ujadigele, Western Spring Television News.
You're watching News at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come. 8 new confirmed cases of Marburg disease have been reported in a total to 20 so far. We'll bring you more on this when we return.
The name Adolf Hitler exudes a gale of bile from millions of people who were victims of his autocratic rule and love, from fanatical supporters of his imperial aggression. Born April 20, 1889, at a small Austrian town sandwiched between Austro-German frontier, Adolf Hitler spent most of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. As a very prominent stakeholder in the horrific events of conflicts in Europe, Adolf Hitler could simply go off as the sole mover of the Second World War. 40 million Jews were murdered in the gas chambers of various Nazi camps on the orders of Adolf Hitler. Thousands of Adolf Hitlers still live in Germany today, but the majority of them are elderly and were named before the end of the Second World War. As the name pales into vanishing rarity, 13 children, according to official records, were named Adolf Hitler between 2006 and 2013. Western Spring Television identifies Adolf Hitler as a major character in history. The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history.
You're welcome back. This is still News at 7 on Western Spring Television. A reminder of our headlines. United Kingdom court finds former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu and his wife guilty of organ trafficking. Court of Appeal fixes Friday to deliver judgment in appeal by Ademola Adeleke seeking to affirm his election as Osun State Governor. PDP suspend former Ekiti State Governor Ayo Fayose, former Senate President Pius Ayim, and 2 others over anti-party activities. And on the foreign scene, 8 new confirmed cases of Marburg disease reported in Equatorial Guinea, bringing the total to 20 so far. The holy month of Ramadan has been termed a merciful month where the Muslim faithfuls fast for a period of 30 days in seeking the face of the Almighty. In this report, Olayinka Ali takes us through the importance of this period.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله لا سعي تماما اليوم ولا لهاي دون صلي الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا والله
Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, and it is considered the most important month for Muslims across the world, as it is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. During this month, people fast from sunrise to sunset every day, abstaining from food, drink, and other physical needs. Aside fasting, Ramadan is a month tagged the month of prayer, forgiveness, self-reflection, and spiritual growth. According to Islamic Network Group, Ramadan is a month of intense spiritual rejuvenation with a heightened focus on devotion, during which Muslims spend extra time reading the Quran and performing special prayers. Those unable to fast, such as pregnant and nursing women, the sick or elderly people and children, are exempt from fasting. The purpose of Ramadan fasting is to purify the soul and demonstrate solidarity with the poor and needy. It is also seen as a way to improve self-discipline and gain a deeper understanding of Islam. Some cross-sections of Muslim faithfuls who spoke with the news crew has described Ramadan as important because the Quran was revealed in this month, and it is tagged a month full of blessings, mercy, and forgiveness. Also, it is believed that the doors of heavens are opened during this holy month, as well as the doors of hell closed. It is said that rewards are multiplied from 100 to 700 times. An Islamic scholar and the Grand Chief Imam of Oshogbo, Alhaji Musa Animashaun, has described the month of Ramadan as a merciful one, where the Almighty Allah wants all Muslim faithfuls to call upon Him in holiness and in truth. He has also urged all Muslims to continue to live a holy life even after Ramadan.
Tọ́jẹ́ àdìdì ọgbọ̀njọ́ àwẹ̀ téèyàn fi gbà wọ́n tọ́jẹ́ ọ̀ràn yẹn fún àwọn Islam tá a gbọ́dọ̀ má gbà ní ọgbọ̀njọ́ tí ó pè pérépéré ọlọ́mọsájà lè gbà nílẹ̀ òun tá a fi gbà tó fi wọn ọlọ́mọsáṣe fún wa ọlọ́mọsájà ìlà Muhammad.
In her own view, Alhaja Muibat Anyowale said one of the importance of Ramadan is for Muslims to abstain from sins and seek the forgiveness of the Almighty Allah.
The importance of Ramadan is to keep ourselves safe from sin, to stay away from what is not good, to seek Allah forgiveness from all sorts of habits that will make us just to stay away from sin.
Similarly, Alhaji Shuaib Olatoye has admonished all Muslim faithfuls to fear the Most High and do His bidding in this holy month, because Allah grants all supplications in this month, as it is a month of mercy.
The importance of the Ramadan is to fear Almighty Allah. Do of Almighty Allah, you will do it perfect. Don't of Almighty Allah, you won't. You know, this time around, Almighty Allah are forgiving sins.
One of the residents in the area, which has caused health problems for residents over the years. The residents are calling on government agencies, especially the Osun Waste Management Agency, to assuage the situation by evacuating the poultry from the residential area. Toby Sanusi visited the area and now reports.
Located in the developed residential part of Osogbo, the Osun State capital, the Road 5 Zone B extraction of Alilia Estate is a populated area that plays host to most elderly residents and youths. Trouble started when one of the residents, known to be a former permanent secretary, Ministry of Finance in Osun State, erected a building for poultry house and pig pen right beside his residential building, causing environmental pollution. Over the years, residents of Road 5 Zone B area in Alilia Estate have had to grapple with the hazardous odor that comes with rearing livestock in such a developed residential area. One of the residents, who is in his 60s, Odelola Timothy, whose house has been domiciled in the area since 1993, says many of the residents had thought the former PS would evacuate his livestock from the vicinity, considering the development of the area over the years, but the owner did not seem to see in the direction of the residents.
For some years now, we have been facing a lot of problems from our neighbor that is keeping our poultry, and the odor is affecting us and affecting our heads. And we have been making a lot of efforts in order to make sure that this issue has been resolved.
Same narrative was given by another resident, Awodele Olushola, who had several physical conversations with the poultry owner on the health effects of the poultry house and pig pen on the resident, but the owner kept making failed promises to find lasting solution.
The start of the poultry and the pig combined within the same compound, and it had been an age-long thing. People had been complaining, and the owners had been posting on members of the community who are complaining that they will find something to do about it, but up to now, nothing. It's a very big hell, very, very hectic. You need to be here.
You see, when the terrible odor start oozing out, you won't like it. 24/7, day and night, I mean, especially during the rainy season. In fact, everywhere is enveloped, no matter how you close your door on this. In fact, people passing by, the Okada riders, people driving their cars, whenever they start from the tail end there until they get to up there, they will close their noses and mouths. And you know, and when you close your nose and mouth, you know what happens. You squeeze your face as well. So you know, the body language is an expression of something very, very, very poisonous to human health. That's what I mean. They should encourage him to move them away. There was a time he confessed to me, he said even his children were complaining. I mean the man, the owner. He said that the children were complaining.
Even though the hazardous stench emanating from the livestock area, which occupies a large expanse of land, was conspicuously noticed by Western Spring Television news crew during a visit, many of the affected residents who perceive the owner as an influential force in the area refused to speak to our news crew over fear of intimidation by the poultry owner. Mr. Odeshola, however, corroborates the affairs by claiming that the owner has so far used his power to sabotage his fellow neighbors by not evacuating the poultry house and pig pen from the area, despite several complaints.
But we look at it that maybe because his reach or his influence in the society, that is why he wants to use it to intimidate us, or we don't even know. And that is why, and I've been written a lot of forwarding letter to OSEMA and some agency. We didn't see any response. So that's why I said we should inform everybody about what is happening in our environment so that they will come to our rescue. They should come and rescue us from this odor.
However, in a brief telephone chat with the poultry owner who failed to grant an interview, stated that he was working on resolving the matter, but no specific time frame was given. Western Spring Television News took the complaint to the notice of Osun State Waste Management Agency, OMA, whose Director of Environmental Health and Sanitation, Peter Aleshinloye, says it is unlawful to keep large-scale livestock in a residential area. Mr. Aleshinloye, however, vowed that the agency will serve the poultry owner a notice to evacuate the area, having received the complaint.
The position of the law is clear. It is not allowed in a residential area, poultry, piggery, or the large scale. The law says that anything above 20 for piggery and so on is commercial. So such must be out of residential area. For birds, anything above 25 is not allowed in residential area for profitability and for safety of the people they have to do. So the law is clear on that. Yeah, what we do is to visit, give a notice known as abatement notice. The notice will require them to relocate to a place that is to a non-residential area so that it will save the people from pollution. We give them specific time, like 3 months, so that the loss will be minimized. And so then, while they are planning to move, we give them some things that they will need to be applying so that the odor and what have you will not be much. That's what we do. The law does not know that somebody is in power or not, or somebody is influential or not. The law is for everybody, whether high or low. It's irrespective of any person. Once we do our bit, we pursue the case to the Court of Justice, and the law will take its course. We'll give a notice, dispatch it to the owner, requiring him to leave within a specific period that I asked, like I've said. But in case it defaults, the notice, then we have to refer the issue to the court, presenting all that we have served, and the court will mandate whoever it is to move.
Environmental pollution is hazardous to humans' health and constitutes environmental degradation. Toby Sanusi, reporting for Western Spring Television.
And to security matters, the multinational Joint Task Force says troops of Sector 3 have arrested a Boko Haram collaborator at Federal Government Girls College, Mongunu, Borno State. MNJTF's Chief Military Public Information Officer, Kamorudin Adegoke, said the collaborator, identified as Umar Goni, was apprehended in collaboration with operatives of Civilian Joint Task Force in the state. He said Goni was arrested while attempting to cast his vote during the governorship and House of Assembly elections on March 18th. He said during the operation in the same sector, the troops rescued 9 women and 8 children suspected to be family members of the terrorists. 20 terrorists were also said to have been killed during other operations, while 63 insurgents were arrested with explosives in a joint operation. In Niger Republic, the troops arrested 30 terrorists and captured 36 others in the southern zone of Tamil. In Niger State, the police command has arrested 3 suspects for kidnapping children in Suleja local government area of the state. In a statement, police spokesperson in the state, DSP Wasiu Abiodun, stated that the suspects were arrested in Abuja. He revealed that the suspects had been involved in the kidnap of 2 siblings, aged 3 and 5, from their home in Suleja area of the state last year. DSP Abiodun stated that after the suspects kidnapped the children, they took them to an orphanage home in Abuja where they were paid some money. He stated that the abducted children were transferred to another orphanage home in Lugbe area of Abuja, where they were eventually rescued by the police. The police spokesman added that the 5 other children rescued alongside the 2 siblings have been handed over to the Welfare Department of the FCT. He added that efforts are being made to arrest the other suspects at large. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, today arrested 28 persons, including a cleric, suspected to be internet fraudsters in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital. The arrest, which was effected at Mandate area Ilorin by operatives of the EFCC Ilorin Zonal Command, followed intelligence on the activities of fraudsters operating in the area. A press statement by the EFCC spokesperson Wilson Uwajaren said preliminary investigation revealed the identity of the suspect to include a cleric, twin brothers, 6 students of various tertiary institutions, mining operators, and a host of other specialized private individuals. On the foreign scene, the World Health Organization has announced that 8 new confirmed cases of the Marburg disease have been reported in Equatorial Guinea. This brings the total of laboratory-confirmed cases to 9 and probable cases to 20 since the outbreak of the disease was declared in February. In a statement, WHO Africa Director Matshidiso Moeti said the confirmation of the new cases is a critical signal to scale up response efforts to quickly stop the chain of transmission. She noted that of the 8 cases, 2 were reported from the Central African countries Kaintem province, 4 from the Littoral province, and 2 from Century Sor province. Marburg virus disease, a deadly one similar to Ebola, is a viral hemorrhagic fever that can have a death rate of up to 88%. And turning to Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon says she has confidence in whoever takes her place as leader of the Scottish National Party, saying the candidate will lead the country into becoming independent. Speaking at her final First Minister's questions in Holyrood, Ms. Sturgeon defended her and her party's record in government against fierce criticism from both the Conservative and Labour over the performance of the NHS. The deaths in Scotland on her watch. So will have a top job ahead. She said she believes that person will build on her record and continue to maintain the trust of the Scottish people.
Cabinet has always been gender balanced. This Parliament legislated for free period products and strengthened the law on domestic abuse. And less tangibly perhaps, but just as important, no girl in our country now has any doubt that a woman can hold the highest office in the land. I heard a phrase the other day that really struck a chord with me. When women lift, girls rise. I've tried as First Minister to put that into practice, and I will continue to do so for the rest of my life. And it is now to the people of Scotland, all of you, whether you voted for me or not, that I reserve my final words from this seat. Thank you so much for placing your trust in me. Words will never adequately convey the gratitude and the awe I hold in my heart for the opportunity I have had to serve as your First Minister. It truly has been the privilege of my lifetime. And with these words, Presiding Officer, I draw it to a close.
Still in the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said he is glad his tax details have been released following months of political pressure, showing he paid £432,493 in tax in 2021 and 2022. According to Sky News analysis, it amounted to an effective tax rate of around 22%, only marginally higher than the UK's basic rate of 20%. Mr. Sunak said he was glad to have published his tax returns and he did not think the public was that interested.
Well, I said I would publish my tax returns. I was pleased to be able to do that yesterday in the interest of transparency. And the most important thing is, what am I doing to help people of this country with the cost of living? That's their number one priority. That's why at the beginning of the year I set out 5 priorities. The first of those was to halve inflation, and the budget recently extended our support for people's energy bills. Just to remind everyone, I took a decision to tax the windfall profits of big energy companies, 75% tax rate on those, and we're using that money to help pay for around half of everyone's energy bill over this winter. It's worth £1,500. That's the actions of this government. That's what we're doing.
Australian leader has unveiled crucial details of a planned referendum which could see it change its constitution for the first time in almost 50 years. If approved, the vote later this year will establish an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice, a formal body for indigenous people to give advice on laws. Here is a report detailing the proposed referendum.
Australia's leader has unveiled crucial details of a planned referendum which could see it change its constitution. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, who represent about 3.8% of Australia's population, are currently not mentioned in the constitution. For 122 years, Australia's founding document has failed to recognise indigenous communities and their more than 65,000 years of continuous connection to the land. The referendum, to be held between October and December, will seek to enshrine in the Constitution recognition of indigenous people through the establishment of a consultative committee to Parliament called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice. The Voice has been fiercely debated with support and opposition across the political spectrum. It was initially recommended by a historic document in 2017 called the Uluru Statement from the Heart. Meanwhile, it was drafted by more than 250 indigenous leaders. The statement is considered the best, though not unanimous, call to action for reforms which affect First Nations Australians. On Thursday, Mr. Albanese announced the proposed wording for a question to be put to Australians in a compulsory vote. Speaking to Australians, he said it was a proposed law to alter the Constitution to recognise the First Peoples of Australia by establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice, asking if they approved the proposed alteration.
This is a modest request. I say to Australia, don't miss it. Don't miss it.
Standing alongside, Indigenous Affairs Minister Linda Burney spoke of how she had spent the first 10 years of her life not being counted.
This is truly a really great day for this nation. Last night, the Senate passed the referendum machinery bill with bipartisan support. And just a few hours ago, the Prime Minister announced the wording of the constitutional amendment. And the question that will be put to Australians at the referendum. And that question is a proposed law to alter the Constitution to recognise First Peoples of Australia by establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice. Do you approve of this proposed alteration? It's a simple question. It's a matter from the heart. 6 years ago, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people met at Uluru. The statement from the heart was the largest ever First Nations consensus on a way forward for this country.
The proposal, subject to debate in Parliament, states the Voice will make representations to members of Parliament and policymakers on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. However, Parliament will have the power to decide on the Voice's composition, functions, powers and procedures. Some of the cases arising, according to the Uluru Statement, alludes to the fact that Australians feel a powerlessness when tackling structural problems to improve their lives. These problems include having a shorter life expectancy than non-Indigenous Australians, disproportionately poorer health and education outcomes, and higher incarceration rates. Arguments abound that this is often because of a failure to properly consult Indigenous people on solutions. An Uluru Statement signatory, Professor Megan Davis, wrote that non-Indigenous people are making decisions about communities they have never visited and people they do not know, and also explains what the Voice is and its purpose.
Yeah, so the Voice is a mechanism that enables First Nations people to have a voice in the decisions and policies and laws made by the government of the day and by the Parliament. It gets us a seat at the table, and that's something that we don't have now. And so that's what the Voice to Parliament is in a nutshell. It's not about, our mob wanting to be politicians. They don't want to join political parties. It's not about being ideological. They live in communities. They work for their communities. They live their whole lives. But they do want to have input into laws and policies because currently that doesn't happen. And that's why we see the situation that we see in Indigenous affairs across the nation.
Meanwhile, changing Australia's constitution has never been easy, and more than 4 in 5 referendums fail. Only 8 of 44 referendums held since 1901 have been carried, and none since 1977. But deep divisions remain across Australian society, as opposition leader Peter Dutton has said his Conservative Liberal Party has yet to decide whether they would support the Voice and required more detail, including the government's own legal advice. On the other hand, the Nationals Party, the junior coalition partner in the former Conservative-led government, announced in November they had decided to oppose the Voice, saying it would divide the nation along racial lines. However, for it to succeed, a majority of Australians need to vote yes, and there also needs to be majority support in at least 4 of Australia's 6 states.
And still ahead, House of Representatives urges Central Bank of Nigeria to direct banks to immediately overhaul their electronic transaction platforms. We have more on this and
Ahmadu Bello, Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness and participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history.
You're welcome back. Now to business news. Despite controversies surrounding the establishment of the national carrier Nigeria Air, the federal government, through the Ministry of Aviation, has revealed that local and international flights will commence soon. Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika made this revelation at the ongoing National Aviation Stakeholders Forum in Abuja today. The minister said the benefits Nigeria stands to derive from the establishment of the national carrier are reduced capital flight from Nigeria, optimal benefits of bilateral aviation safety agreement and single African air transport market, and develop an aviation hub. He added that it will contribute to the gross domestic product, facilitate hospitality and tourism, facilitate growth and development of the Nigerian agricultural sector, and create jobs around the agro-cargo terminals. Indigenous energy company Seplat Energy PLC has revealed that it had commenced legal proceedings against its co-founder, Dr. Ambrose Ojiako, and a consultancy firm, Amaze Limited. In a statement by the board chairman, Basil Omoyi, the company said the consultancy agreement with the firm had also been terminated. The company accused the co-founder through Amaze Limited of unilaterally making significant commitments on Seplat's letterhead without prior board authority or knowledge. It was also revealed that repeated warnings had been disregarded, resulting in a suspension of the agreement in February 2023. In the meantime, the House of Representatives has urged the Central Bank of Nigeria to direct banks to immediately overhaul their electronic transaction platforms. According to the House, the move has become necessary in the aftermath of the recent CBN policies, which have put pressure on online and electronic banking. The CBN had set lower limits for cash withdrawals and redesigned the 1,500 and 200 naira notes policies that caused chaos in the country. A member of the House, Sergius Ogun, at plenary today, moved a motion demanding reinforcement and upgrade of banking systems, especially those of the deposit money banks, also known as commercial banks. In the United States, lawmakers have questioned the CEO of video sharing app TikTok amidst growing calls for it to be banned. TikTok boss Xu Zhiqiu faced hostile questioning from the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. Committee Chair Katie Rogers says the Chinese-owned app should be banned due to security concerns over user data privacy. According to her, TikTok is a weapon of the Chinese Communist Party and it does not embrace our values. But Mr. Chiu, in his opening remarks, says all data is safely stored in the U.S. and teenage users are protected. U.S. President Joe Biden has called for an outright ban or for the U.S. part of the company to be sold to a domestic buyer. The app has grown rapidly in the U.S., where it has 150 million monthly users.
Now, I would also like to talk about national security concerns that you have raised, that we take very, very seriously. Let me start by addressing a few misconceptions about ByteDance, of which we are a subsidiary. ByteDance is not owned or controlled by the Chinese government. It's a private company. 60% of the company is owned by global institutional investors. 20% is owned by the founder, and 20% owned by employees around the world. ByteDance has 5 board members. 3 of them are American. Now, TikTok itself is not available in mainland China. We're headquartered in Los Angeles and in Singapore, and we have 7,000 employees in the US today. Still, we have heard important concerns about the potential for unwanted foreign access to US data and potential manipulation of the TikTok US ecosystem. Our approach has never been to dismiss or trivialize any of these concerns. We have addressed them with real action. Now, that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years, building what amounts to a firewall that seals.
And in the exciting world of sports, Super Eagles striker Victor Osimhen has disclosed that the team do not underrate the digesters of Guinea-Bissau ahead of tomorrow's African Cup of Nations qualifying match. The Napoli forward noted that the Super Eagles will give the Guinea-Bissau team the respect they deserve. Osimhen also expressed confidence that Super Eagles are ready to defeat their opponents. The 3-time African champions will entertain Baserio Kande's side in a 2023 Africa Cup of Nations encounter at the Moshood Abiola Stadium, Abuja.
We are looking forward to it, and I'm happy to be back with the sport. It's an amazing feeling, and I'm really expecting an amazing result in the 2-legged game against Guinea-Bissau. We don't underrate our opponent, and we want to give them the respect they deserve also as a team. Of course, the boys are ready. We have a high spirit, and I think we are ready to give our all come Friday, the second leg in Guinea-Bissau. Just like I said earlier, I'm really looking forward to the game and to contribute also to the team. First of all, I want to say I want to promise that we will try everything possible to get the win. And of course, I would like to contribute also with a lot of goals and a couple of assists also. And of course, the team come first, and I want to assure them that we will give everything to make sure they are entertained and to make sure they are happy by getting the win and also getting the qualification to the next AFCON. I literally don't care about the being the highest goal scorer in the qualification series, but the team conference, just like I said earlier, and then if my goals come and I eventually be the highest goal scorer, it's a good an amazing feeling for me. But of course, the team conference, and I want what's best for the team, and I want to win a lot of games with this player. I want to say thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for sticking with me, with the Super Eagles, most especially your support throughout the years. I know we might have let you down in the past, but I want to say we'll do everything in our power to make sure that we win your love back, and thank you for your support. Personally, for me, I'm grateful for all the support you guys have been showing me from the start of this season until up to now. I appreciate you, and God bless you, and thank you very much.
Cristiano Ronaldo will become the most carved men's international footballer if he plays in Portugal's Euro 2024 qualifying opener against Liechtenstein later tonight. The 38-year-old moved level with Kuwait forward Badr Al Mutawa on 196 caps when he faced Morocco at the World Cup. And he is now part of new Portugal manager Roberto Martinez's first squad. Ronaldo, now playing in Saudi Arabia for Al Nassr, has scored a men's record 118 international goals. There were question marks about his international future after he left the pitch in tears following Portugal's elimination by Morocco at the World Cup. UEFA is to investigate a former vice president of Spain's referees committee. UEFA, in a statement, said it had appointed ethics and disciplinary inspectors to look into payments allegedly made for favorable refereeing decisions. Prosecutors allege Barca paid 8.4 million euros to Jose Maria Enriquez Negreira and his Dancil 95 company. Barcelona, who deny any wrongdoings, acknowledged the payments were made to Dancil 95 between 2001 and 2018. Former Barcelona president Josep Maria Bartomeu and Sandro Rosell, as well as Negreira, have been indicted alongside the club. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, here is a recap of our major stories. Former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu and his wife have been found guilty of organ trafficking by a United Kingdom court. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has fixed Friday to deliver judgment in an appeal by Senator Ademola Adeleke seeking to affirm his election as Osun State Governor. The People's Democratic Party today suspended former Governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Fayose, former President of the Senate, Pius Ayim, Professor Dennis Itavuya, and Aslam Aliu over anti-party activities. On the foreign scene, the World Health Organization has announced that 8 new confirmed cases of the Marburg disease have been reported in Equatorial Guinea. Please do follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Tunde Idowu. Good evening.
Arrested, affected,